The idea behind the show is simply asking guests what they would tell a stranger on a plane if they were sitting next to them and the stranger asked them for advice.
The scenery is passing very fast, but the seer is constant. The one who's seeing is the same.
Let me appreciate you for asking a question that I haven't been asked after 2,500 or so interviews over the years.
Is you have to drop the ego, which is everyone's greatest obstacle.
In 2008, Grant and I had been married for 4 years. I was pregnant with my first child. The economy was collapsing, and we were on the verge of losing everything financially.
So it's so great to be back, everybody, with the latest episode and edition of the Enlightened Passenger. As always, I'm always super excited to have brand new first-time guests, people I haven't had the opportunity to interview before, because I always learn something new, but I also just like the idea of introducing somebody new to our audience. So Richard Evans, so excited to have you here today. And Richard, with this show, we jump in pretty heavy right away with questions. And I want to talk about the new book that you have, but I also want to ask you a bit about some of the stuff you've learned over the years as well. And so maybe I'll start with a really big question. I usually, this is one of only 2 questions I ever sort of planned, but I'll start with it, which is pretty deep for a first question. But let me ask you this. If you could jump into a time machine and go back and talk to a younger version of yourself, give him some life advice based on what you've learned in the years since, what do you think you might tell a younger Richard?
I'd tell them it's going to be okay. That's interesting, because my book that just came out, my plug, there it is actually about my younger self. And when I was a kid, it was pretty rough. Life felt like everything was falling apart, and it wasn't going to be okay. And so to have faith, it's like things work out. And I look at the beauty of my life. I mean, the impact I've been able to have, and the millions of readers, and it's like kind of crazy for a poor little kid with Tourette syndrome. God can do amazing things.
Wow. Let me ask you, let's talk about the book for a few minutes. So, as you mentioned, the book is based around your childhood. What was sort of the catalyst? Like, what made you want to actually write the book? Like, what was the driver behind it?
Well, this is a strange thing. Last year at this time, I was very sick in bed. I just had surgery. I caught pneumonia right after surgery. Then on top of that, I caught COVID. A friend of mine had the same thing. He passed away. He was my age, and he died. And I thought, I was in bed 20 hours a day. I stopped eating. We talked to the hospital constantly. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm very sick. And then this book started coming to me. And I had my wife bring me a notepad, and I start writing it. And I thought, okay, I have COVID brain. It's probably all worthless. But 2 months later, when I started to recover, I started reading it, and I was just floored. I thought, I've written 45 New York Times bestselling novels. This may be the best thing I've ever written. And I was in tears. Right? And then that's what's happening. The pre-orders of this book were 4 times what my normal pre-orders are. So the sales have been massive already. So we'll find out Wednesday where we are in the New York Times bestseller list, but it's huge.
So, I want to ask you about that as well then, because we, with our audience, we do get a lot of people that are wanting to either get into writing, or they've written, but they struggle with how to actually sell books. As we start to discover, as we get into that side of the world, that selling books isn't, some people think it's a lot easier than it is, I think. Write a book and everybody's going to swarm around it. And maybe that does happen every once in a while, but I don't think that's
rarely.
the norm. Yeah, rarely. So let me ask you this, being on the New York Times list that many times, that's a coveted prize for a lot of people. What does it really come down to? And when I ask this, I'm curious, have you over the years built, for example, an email list that you can then let people know the new book's coming out, or has it all been just word of mouth, or how did it sort of come together?
Yeah. What you want to do is build a platform. And it's interesting you asked that. I get stopped every day. I got stopped at church yesterday by a woman saying, can you help me with my book? But that's every single day. So last summer, I took an entire month off, and I recorded every single lesson I could think of, about 30 lessons on how to write, publish, and market your book, and put it out there for free. it's like, so people would stop asking me, and it's like, so your listeners can go to authorready.com and join for free. There is a paid component if they want to get into the deep marketing. It's only $19 a month. I mean, it's very inexpensive, but I've sold more than 35 million books. And it wasn't an accident. I worked very, very hard. I used to be a political consultant and advertiser. And so I took the things I learned to have a successful career selling politicians, put it in the book world, and with very successful. So I wanted to share those things because once you get to the top, you kind of want to lower the ladder and help other people up. And we have a wonderful writing community, but it is very common. And to those listening who want to write books, good for you, because I didn't write the book for millions. I wrote the book for my daughters, for two little girls, because I wanted them to understand a father's love. It was something very personal. Books are personal, and when people start trying to write for the masses, that's when they screw up. You write for yourself. You write for a few people. And I mean, if I don't know your phone number, how do I know your heart? I mean, really. Right. So that's the power of it. So I would say, write that book, even if you're the only one to write it. I helped a man in our group with a book. He was a tail gunner in a B-25 bomber, the most dangerous position you can have in World War II. And he survived. He lived. And he wanted to share that with his kids about what it took to fight for freedom before he died. And he finished the book, and 3 months later he passed away, but he left his legacy. So books change the world, and that's what you're about, Corey. You have this wonderful webcast that's to affect people, to help them be their best selves. Just the act of writing a book is life-changing.
Wow. And I'll tell you, I wrote, even though obviously I can re-listen anytime I want, I wrote down the name of the website because I'm going there myself.
Do it. Join it. I'd love to have you as part of it. You'll be flooded by authors who want to be on your show. Yeah, I imagine. But I'm all in either way, because I'm working on the latest book here shortly, and I'm always looking. As you know, it only takes that one little tweak, that one little thing. I've been myself releasing books and doing stuff with books for years, and I've learned long ago, it just takes one little thing that you never thought of before that changes everything. So I'm all in. And I love it. I didn't even know you were going to say it was free, and I was already writing it down, going, okay, I'm in. So, and then I'll be in for the 19, obviously a month as well. So I love that, because again, I imagine you get, and as you said, but I imagine you get this question all the time. I mean, I've sold a couple 100,000 books, but nothing like millions. And I get this question almost every week. So I can only imagine you get it all the time. And so it's so cool that you decide to do that. Let's shift again back to your work, because one of the other things that we were talking about off air just briefly is we were talking about another project that you have and what's happened with it. Now, when I say this, I'm talking about, I believe it's the Noel Diary. The Noel Diary. It's right here. I actually got an email from famed director Charles Shire. He did Father of the Bride, Private Benjamin, you've heard of every movie he's done. He's huge. Anyway, he emailed me last night and said, Rick, I assume we have the #1 movie on Netflix and the #2 movie in the world. He said, not bad for a couple lowly writers, eh? That is awesome. So yeah, if you saw the movie Justin Hartley, it's crushing it, and it's so much. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun movie. Well, and I also know we got 2 young kids, and we watch family movies all the time. Like, just in general, we watch movies. And the girlfriend is obsessed with she's obsessed with any movie with a heartfelt feeling. So now I can make sure she watches it if she hasn't yet. She might have already watched it. Yeah, well, and the thing is, it has Justin Hartley, and Justin Hartley from This Is Us, and he must be the most handsome man in the world, because every reporter I've talked to, female reporter, even my doctor, swooned when I said his name. It's like, so I got to see him. I had a dream come true. We had a Hollywood walkthrough. So we're going through, and Justin wasn't supposed to be there because he was doing all the morning shows in New York, and he flew in. And my wife says, too bad Justin isn't here. And I said, turn around, he's right there. And I said, man, you are so handsome. And he goes, well, so are you. And I said, no, you claw your eyes out handsome. Like, I can't imagine what going through life like you must be like. And he was awesome.
That's so cool. And so I guess then, do you feel, and I have a couple other quick questions I want to ask you too, but do you feel that what you've done, is it also a momentum thing, like building upon? So like, you know, you get one thing out and then you have these followers that go, I love his stuff. And then they follow to the next thing. Is that, do you think, the biggest part of what happens? Or do you think you just, as you said, write for one person, make really great stuff, and people will find it regardless?
Well, there's two components, and this is important to understand. The book process is a whole very personal, different thing. And I don't try to change the hearts of millions. I change the heart of one person. So like my book that just came out, I just had these really strong feelings about it, because when I start talking to my editor, she wept through the book. She goes, I've never been more moved by a book. I took 18 women up to a cabin. That sounds funny. We did a test read and and they weren't my readers. Okay. We let them read the book, and the response was they all became fans. And what I saw, I looked for triggers, and you understand this, you're a marketing man, you look for triggers. What I realized is that the book triggered the maternal instinct to protect. So a 22-year-old woman came up, she goes, may I please hold you? She was looking at me, I'm 60. She's looking at me as a little boy. And I thought, oh my gosh, this book's going to be huge, because it has the instinct. So once we know that, then it's like, what do you do with it? And that's the extra part. So building that platform, you know, I have 400,000 fans that I can reach just like that and drive a book to bestseller list. I've worked on that for more than 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so to get started with that platform is worth millions. I had a presidential candidate contact me to see if he could use my list. I go, absolutely not. I have fans on both sides of the political equation. It's like, no, I would never do that, because that'd be like that'd be suicide, but it'd be a donation of millions of dollars too. So that is what we teach in the marketing on Author Ready. Is how to build that platform and use it over and over. And so, you know, it's probably my most valuable possession, more than my real estate, more than anything, that someday I'll just turn that over.
And so, I mean, I didn't mean to spend this much time on the book side, but I got to ask you one more thing, and then I'll move over to a couple other questions. I want to ask you our passenger question, which is obviously, it's what inspired the show, which, by the way, was inspired by a book that's not released yet, which is kind of ironic. A book that I'd written fully. And this is why I'm asking this question too, is where I'm at right now in the book is I've sent it out to 30, 40 people, roughly 30, 40 people in my network, in this community I have, for basically feedback. Like, what did you get stuck on? What did you like? What didn't you like? What resonated with you?
Beautiful.
And I was going to say, it sounds like you believe in testing the book as well. Obviously.
Oh, you're very smart. That's the people laugh because like I do retreats too, and they sell out. And it's like, they laugh because by the end, it's like, what do I say? And they go, test, test, test. So like, for instance, this cover, my fans chose it out of 6 of them. I already knew, because I had 1,000 people tell me this was a cover they would be drawn to. Okay. It's like, I test everything. What you're telling, Corey, is dead on. You know exactly what to do. I want to know how they're going to respond. So that's why we went to the cabin, right? We tested. I wanted to know how they responded and to what messages they responded to. And that's vital. And I never know going into it. So back when I was in advertising, someone said, you know, how are you going to get me elected? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know. And they're like, what? You're supposed to be good at this. I said, well, that's the whole point. I don't know, but I know how to find out. And once I find out, then we'll get you elected.
Wow, I love that. Well, and I mean, I'm not one of those people that takes credit for something I didn't learn on my own. And so I'll say I would love to be the one that took credit for that with the testing, but I'll tell you where I got it. It goes back to that point I mentioned about it just takes one little tweak. Was I built this friendship with James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy.
I know. Yeah, right.
Okay. Cool. So, you know, 30 some million copies sold. And so James shared with me that when he started, and he's since shared in interviews and stuff, but with other people, but he said he had a 50-person test group and he sent it out. And his thing was he obsessed over, like, until they all said I couldn't put it down. He wanted to know what page you get stuck, what word, why did you, like, even if you put it down for supper, somebody would say, well, it's just because they had to go eat. And he's like, no, but I want it to be the book you can't put down for supper. So I need to know what was stalled you on that page. And he obsessed over that. And I'm like, why am I not doing this on my earlier books? So it's that one thing I picked up and I'm like, I need to start doing this. So that's where I got.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, he's one of those guys who I look to. Is like, I was inspired because my book came out 2 years after his. It's like, man, I want to be like Celestine Prophecies. But Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield of Chicken Soup, we started together. We're on the road together, so I got to know them. They created a model that did nothing but that. They'd bring all these stories in. That's why they did like 60 of their books, right? And they would just test. Every story was tested. So once it got together, every story had been tested for its emotional impact, its readability. And so that's why they continue to have successful book after successful book.
So I love that. And Mark is another person we've done some stuff with. And yeah, Mark told me another thing he did, which I thought was so brilliant, is he said when he wanted to figure out how people had best-selling books, he started calling all the people that he had shared the stage with. And he said, like, I forget who he listed, but like Wayne Dyer and Barbara DeAngelos. And he reached out to them and he said, I wanted to figure out what they're doing different than everybody else. And he said he obsessed over that. And so, Mark and Jack, I would say definitely are among the best book marketers that maybe have ever existed. And yeah, so it's a prime example, right? They wanted to learn what is that one thing that's going to push it over the edge. So I love that you bring them up as too. On the retreat side, just out of curiosity, you said you do them off and on. Do you have any planned right now?
Yeah, we have 3. We've already sold out one of them, and the other 2 are half full, and we haven't really pushed it yet. So, my wife didn't want me to do as many. It's down at my ranch in southern Utah, right next to Zion's National Park. They used to be $5,000 a person. We reduced the price to $1,500 a person because I realized writers were struggling, and they just kind of exploded. Yeah, if you're interested, we'd love to have you. It'd be fun to have. I did an extension. I thought, well, I'll just connect 2 of them and do a more, one-on-one with just 6 authors. And I think we have 1 place left in that. It's sold out. Now it's sold out first. And I thought, wow, I could charge a lot more, but I don't need the money, and I don't really want to. I like helping people. It's fun.
And is that on the website as well? Just I'm thinking for myself, but also.
No, we don't. We're not in marketing. Yeah,
Okay.
It's like, yeah, if you're interested, just email me.
Okay.
You can email me at author@richardpaulevans.com. We'll be putting out there an author ready, but as soon as we haven't even offered it to author ready yet.
Okay.
We all have almost 100% re-signed up. It's like 95% re-signed up. So that's why they fill up. So if you can get in, it's kind of like a country club membership. But my ranch is so much fun. We have alpaca, we play volleyball, there's a big swimming lake. It's awesome.
And not to put you on the spot, but what timelines are they? I mean, I'm curious.
They're all in June. We have 3 in June this year.
3 in June. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to reach out because
awesome.
That sounds awesome. And my birthday's in June, so it's perfect timing.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. We have people come from we have some people from Venezuela, England. They come from all over the world to come to this. And the truth is, it's just so much fun, but you get to hang out with other writers like yourself. Some are just starting their books. We actually have people who came with writers. Okay, they just came to hang out with them, and they re-sign up. They go, "Oh my gosh, it was a life-changing experience," and it's like you would fit right in, Corey.
Oh,
because you could broadcast from there if you want.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great idea. Yeah, I'll be circling back on that. So before we let you run, and in some ways I'm going to do a bit of PR on that as well, because I know you said they sell it automatically anyway, but let's get a bunch of more people on your list so that way we can add more to that every time. So I wanted to, before we bring things to a close, I want to ask you this main question. I call it the passenger question. It's pretty easy. It's simply, if you were sitting on a plane next to a stranger, they leaned over and asked for advice, and you could tell that stranger anything, what do you think you might tell the stranger based on what you've learned?
First, put your seatbelt on. I would tell them I'd tell them to take the seatbelt off and jump. Do take the risks that scare you. Don't wait. If you don't know how to do it, don't wait for that. My wife, for instance, she said, I want to start taking people to Italy on tours. She's Italian. She loves Italy. And so she was going to go to school. She's going to learn. And I said, honey, you'll learn more in 1 tour than you will in 4 years of college. And I said, let's just do it. Well, she's now taken thousands of people. Her company's very successful. And she does know. She's a genius on Italy. And it's like, just don't worry about, I think it was Augmendino. So experience is wasted on dead man's bones. It's like, you'll learn as you go. And I've seen this with successful people over and over. It's like, I don't know how to do it, but I'll learn how to do it when I get there. So, and sometimes it terrifies me. I've done things that have scared me. So, and I don't know if we're out of time, but I have a story that Mark Victor Hansen has shared over and over. It's called Take the Seat. And that is in the early days when I'm trying to sell my book. I go to the show in Denver, and there's all these big authors up on a stage. And it's like, that's where all the booksellers were. And it's like, I have to meet these people. They don't care who I am. I have to be up there, but I can't be up there unless I'm successful. And then I noticed that there was an empty seat up there. And that little voice said, you want to be a best-selling author? There's an empty seat right there. Go take it. It's like, I'm not going to take it. You don't just walk up on a stage and sit down. And I started to walk away, and the little voice said to me, how much do you believe in your dreams? And if you're not willing to fight for your dreams, who will? So I went and got a box of books, walked up there and sat down between two famous authors and started signing books. And a woman saw me, and she like starts walking over, and she's like, I thought, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so embarrassing. I'm gonna be thrown out in front of hundreds of people. And I turned to her and I said, sorry, I'm late. It just came to me, fortune favors the bold. And she was stunned, and she goes, oh, may I get you some water? She didn't want to offend me in case I was important. And the next year I went back, I had a whole entourage. I had the #1 book in America. I had, all these people, and that same woman was there. And I said, do you remember me? And she goes, you weren't here last year. She goes, I was here working. You weren't here. I go, no. And then she looked at me and she goes, you're the guy who crashed the book signing. I go, thanks for not throwing me out. And she goes, I was going to, but when I saw you, I couldn't do it. Anyway, take the seat. You want that, take the seat. It takes boldness, and you don't know all the answers. That's fine. There's still answers I don't know. Just do it.
I love that. Well, I want to ask you where people can learn more, maybe join your list, get the new book. Obviously, we know how they can check out the show. It's on Netflix and other places as well. I will add one last thing to that too, though. I love that you just shared, Richard, is I was reading a book right now. I forget what it's called now, Relentless, that was written by Mitzi Perdue about Mark Victor Hansen. So they worked together. So he gave her kind of permission to write his story. And she shared a part of the story about how him and Jack were at a mall book signing and nobody was there. And I don't know if you heard the story or not, what Mark did, but they were at a book signing and nobody was there. So, and within the book she wrote, she said, there's no way Jack would have done this. But Mark basically started approaching people and he said, you're not going to believe this. You're so in luck. Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield are going to be signing books right over there shortly. And that's going to be a massive line. And I'm kind of just going around and telling people beforehand so they know that Mark and Jack are both going to be over there. And then basically he went around the whole mall doing that. And then they had this big, massive line. And then he said he watched as people were kind of looking like, you're the guy that told us. but he filled the line. And by that point, they're already there. But it's just like I said, to your point, right? Take the seat. That's what he did. He went around and, took people to the seat, really. But yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So
sounds like Mark, actually. Yeah.
So very brilliant. I just love that. But it takes bold, as you said, to have that kind of success. So the last question, like I said, and Richard, there's never enough time. We have a long form interview show that I'd love to bring you on at some point. Maybe I'll do it from the ranch, but love to bring you on for, because I feel like we were at a time and yet we never had enough time. I think we covered a lot of ground though. But last question, maybe most important, people want to get the new book. They want to follow your work. They want to, as I said, join the newsletter. So they're in the loop on the future stuff. Is there a hub or a place that you would send them? Yeah, go to richardpaulevans.com. I also have a fan page, not my friend page, but a fan page that's very active. So, and that place, I post things about Author Ready and other people, how they can be more involved. And so, but if you want to join right now, I'd love to have you just go to authorready.com. And like I said, it's free. Just go in there and sign up and join a community, because it's active. It's a thriving community. We're seeing books pop out of there and they look fantastic. They look like bestsellers. We have things that you can't get anywhere else. And I tell our followers, I want you to be in the top 1%. It's like not everyone succeeds. That's the reality. But you're going to be so far ahead of everyone else that I'm basically giving you the best chance I can. I'm taking you to the door. I'm unlocking the door. Now you have to walk through it. I love that. And I'm also going to share it with, I have a list that's not as big as yours, but it's still in the thousands. And so I'm going to share it there. But I'm also going to share this inside of a group we have called Blue Talks, where we work with people and we do compilation books. And there's almost 500 people that have written either a book or a chapter, what have you. And I'm going to do actually a mini Facebook Live and share this with them so they can go over and get some free author training. I love it. So
Well, Corey, it'd be really, because you are very, very successful. I mean, hundreds of thousands of books is nuts. That puts you in the top 1% of writers. Love to have you actually do a show on for Author Ready if you're willing. I'd love to have you on in a Zoom call. They would eat you up.
I would love that, and I'm so humbled. You just made my day, my friend. I so appreciate that. So yes, I will take you up on that. I'll circle back about the retreat. I imagine myself probably being there this coming June. And other than that, like I said, we'll just keep waving the flag for all the great stuff you're doing, and we'll get this out far and wide as well. So I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Richard, this has been an absolute pleasure, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. All right, take care. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Richard.